In this episode, I talk with Australia's top creator, the largest channel in the whole entire country and continent of Australia, with over 400 million views every month, 20 million some subscribers on her channel. And I asked her, after doing this for a decade and having the biggest channel in Australia, what is the one thing that creators really need to hear? And she's like, do not grow your business on YouTube, which I'm like, that's what so many creators are doing. Why? So Shannon in this episode is going to talk with us about her experience in growing a business on YouTube and what's that's been like and why she has that advice. We're also going to hear from Adam about what he's doing on his channel to grow it and start finding success after a long time just feeling pretty plateaued, pretty flat. And then, like we do on every episode, we want to wrap it up with a power tip, something practical you can use right now on your channel to start seeing results. And this week, we're going to talk to you a little bit about a new thing with channel memberships. All that and a lot more coming up on this episode.
Hey, welcome to the Video Creators Podcast. You know how you put a lot of time and energy into your YouTube channel for not nearly enough growth? Yeah, we get it. We're here today to help you change that. If you're trying to accelerate your channel's momentum, become more profitable, and change the lives of more people than ever before, today's episode will help you move forward with confidence. So far, our team is responsible for helping clients generate over 20 billion views on YouTube. And now to help you, here's the Video Creators team.
Hello, creators. How are you guys? It's great to see you again for another Video Creators podcast episode like we do with you here every single Monday to help you grow your YouTube channel, grow your business, reach more people, and change their lives. And today is going to be no exception. We have a great interview with Shannon, like I already said, and we're excited to introduce you to her and what she's doing and how she even became the largest channel in the entire country and continent of Australia. But before then, Ingrid on my team sat down with someone who is currently working with us growing their channel. His name's Adam Gardner, and this guy's got a lot of talent. He knows how to use a camera. He's going to film school, right? And he's like, hey, I can make really good videos, but how do I grow on YouTube? And Ingrid was working with him and just helped him tweak one thing. He was really focused on just trying to communicate facts and information so people can consume that info. But he started making a few tweaks, and now he's starting to see momentum and growth on his channel. Here's a little clip of Ingrid talking with Adam about what he changed.
Hey creators, I am here today with Adam Gardner from the Relational Project on YouTube. Adam has recently spent a few months with us here in Video Labs, and I'm going to talk to him a little bit. Well, you know what? Let's let him tell us a little bit about himself. Adam, first off, welcome.
Yeah.
It's nice to have you here. I want you to tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of like your journey to YouTube.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm happy to be here. Yeah. So the Relational Project, as you mentioned, and my journey to YouTube has been kind of an unexpected one. I didn't really expect to take the YouTube route, but as I got further into my project, because it's kind of a short documentary project of talking about a relationship with God and how it affects our relationship with other people, I found YouTube to be a good platform to reach a broad audience. And that's what I really wanted to get at. And to make it hopefully sustainable to where we can keep making videos. And YouTube seemed like a good avenue to go down. So that's kind of how I came to that decision.
I love that. Now you have a little bit of a leg up, I would say, on the regular creator. Tell us a little bit about that. You're a filmmaker.
I am, yeah. I went to Ball State University here in Muncie, Indiana for video production. And so when it comes to like lighting and camera stuff, I'm not perfect at it, but I feel that I've been working at it for a while. And so I want to make my videos look professional and look good. So that's been super helpful. And now I'm just kind of learning, how do I match a good story with that? Because no matter how good the camera work looks, if it's not captivating to the audience, it doesn't really mean a whole lot.
And I love that you said that, because you have the chops here, you know, when it comes to putting out like exceptional content, and you know how to create a feeling, you know, and get the viewer to really feel something. But just like you said, you know, it doesn't really matter. I mean, you can actually have, you know, we see it all the time where we have creators that film with just a cell phone, right? And yet they get millions of views.
That's
and
crazy.
the channels with the most production value,
Yep.
are struggling with growth. So tell us a little bit about, the kind of like the rut that you were feeling and what brought you to Video Labs in the first place.
Yeah, I was so focused in my videos on how do I get my message across and my value proposition, and mainly like the facts and the golden nuggets, as I like to call it. And I kind of got away from thinking about how do people process videos? Why do they watch videos? Because they want to hear a good story and then share that story with someone. And I was so focused on kind of the bullet points, if you will. And Video Labs really helped realign my thinking to create stories that still have those bullet points or facts, but it's woven into a story that gets the message across and it captivates more people than just the facts would.
Yeah. And what kind of impact has that had really on your content at this point? I know that you're fresh out of the class, so we have a whole journey coming up, but like what was probably like the biggest aha moment for you?
Yeah. Oh man. Going through the course, we watched Tim recommend we watch a Casey Neistat, I believe his name is, on YouTube.
Yeah.
And he created videos just daily, but he had a story woven into it. And it was very simple and basic, but it kept my attention. And that was a big aha moment for me of like, this is just a normal day in this guy's life, but yet it's got millions of views. And so that got me thinking too, when I interview people for my channel, how can we implement similar structures? It doesn't have to be a crazy big thing, but it can be something basic that still gets our value proposition across and it gets people watching our channel.
Yeah, I love that you said that because I feel like as a creator, we have a tendency to just kind of overcomplicate things. We focus on the wrong thing and we miss the big picture, right?
Right. Oh, absolutely. I've done that so many times. And it's so easy to get caught up in the big flashy moments, if you will. And you kind of forget that there's a person on the other side of the screen. And that's what I try to remember. How is that person going to interact and what do they want to see? Yeah.
And that's really what you want from your content, right?
Exactly. It's funny going through this because I watch YouTube selfishly because I, want to watch something that captivates me. And so I've had to think, okay, how do I watch YouTube? Because that's probably how other people also watch YouTube in a sense. So that's been helpful in that aspect too.
Yeah, I feel like that's a really great insight and something that, every viewer listening should remember. When you watch content, what are your viewer signals? Because your viewer signals, chances are that is exactly how other people are feeling in that moment too. Very, very crucial insight. So what is like the one big takeaway that you would give a creator who might be stuck and feeling like they're in a rut, focusing on the wrong thing today? What would be that one thing that an actionable step that you would recommend for them?
Yeah. For me, I would tell them it's very important on how you start your video. I get irritated now, and I've done this in the past. I get irritated when I watch a video and it says like, here's 5 tips on X, Y, and Z. And then they go around the barn 3 times before they go in, if you know what I mean. And I'm sitting there thinking, okay, let's get to it. Come on. But I've done that in my own videos. And so I've really learned how crucial it is to just get right to the point or get right to what you want to talk about and let the viewer know, okay, I'm in the right spot. And this is something that I want to continue watching for the next 3 or 4 minutes instead of letting them linger. That's the biggest thing I would say is focus on how you start is huge.
I love that. That's great insight. Great insight. So thank you so much for joining us today. It's been an absolute pleasure having you in class. I'm really looking forward to seeing you continue to grow on the platform.
Thanks. Appreciate you having me.
It's so true, right? Like, just keep it simple. Don't overthink it. Just get focused on doing the thing that engages your audience, which for most of us as humans is storytelling. When someone tells a good story, it captures our attention. It gets us emotionally involved. It starts triggering, we don't have time to get all the science of it, but all these different chemicals in your brain get released. One's associated with empathy, with happiness, with I want another hit, with like all like helps us remember things. All these things happen chemically when we start hearing a story. And so I'm really excited that Adam's channel is starting to see some growth, and he's starting to turn around as he's learning more and more about developing this skill of storytelling. And if you want to work with Ingrid, or actually right now it's Sam, who's working with one of the strategists on my team who's working with creators inside of Video Labs, you can go to videocreators.com/videolabs and just check it out, see if it's right for you or not. It's our 8-week process, but we give you access to a strategist for 12 weeks to work through the material, work through all the training, work through all the assignments, to get feedback and ask questions, and make sure that you are applying this growth process exactly to your channel, to your audience, for your goals. So 12 weeks, guys, is like 3 months of access to a YouTube strategist while you work through this process. You get access Monday through Friday. So it's not like an hour call once a week, and if you miss it, oh well, hope to see you next week type thing. Because we know real life happens, and so it's Monday through Friday. We want to be there for you and really help you out. So go check it out, videocreators.com/videolabs, and we're looking forward to seeing you there. Shannon, hi.
Hello.
Hey, good to have you on the podcast since 2014 or something. Is that the last time you've been on it?
Something like that. Many moons ago, I think, was the last time I was on the podcast.
We did a live stream called Video Entrepreneurs, I think.
Yes.
Talking about the business side of growing channels and stuff.
Yep, live streaming for 6 weeks, I think it was.
It was like a public, open, like mastermind type thing that everyone was we kind of like, hey, you want to watch us, talk about our problems and our issues publicly. Yeah, and you did that, and Evan Carmichael. So yeah, it's fun to see you again here at VidCon. I just found this out about you, which is like you are the largest channel in Australia.
Yes.
How big do you have to be the biggest channel in Australia?
25 million subscribers, 26 maybe, 25.
Okay.
And 17 billion views.
And how many monthly views?
It fluctuates depending, sort of anywhere between 300 and 500 million views a month.
Only 3, it fluctuates, Sometimes it's only 300 million.
Yeah, exactly. It's only 300 this month, so it's very disappointing.
Ah, man. Life is hard.
Yeah.
So how did you get started? I want to hear kind of your experience and what you have for us as creators too, but what was your story? How did you get started with YouTube?
Yeah, I got started the early days of YouTube. At the time I was a maths tutor. I was teaching high school maths. And so I started making videos and putting them on YouTube for my students and other students, just in the very particular curriculum that I was teaching at the time. Was really sort of niched down to, the Victorian schools, this year 11 curriculum. Mm-hmm. And those videos started getting watched by kids all over the world because maths is universal, as it turns out. Yeah. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I got added into the YouTube Partner Program and started making money from those videos. Wow. Yeah. And I thought, oh, okay, well, being a YouTube creator
How long did that take?
That was a couple of years.
Oh, okay.
I was doing that channel for.
So what year were you in the Partner Program?
I want to say 2010, 2009, somewhere around there.
Early days for sure.
Earlier days, yeah. Maybe 2010, I think.
Okay, so 12 years ago.
Yes, 12 years ago. And I was enjoying making videos, but maths wasn't really my passion. I had run an amateur theatre company, music theatre company, for 10 years. And I was also working in the business space. I had a master's of business. I was really focused on that. That was my professional life, and then my hobby life was directing, producing musical theatre. And so, put my business brain hat on, and I thought to myself, well, if you want to be a video creator, you should do that on a channel that you're really passionate about. That's something that you'll be able to want to do every day, live and breathe it. So I started a new channel, and that was Bounce Patrol, which was, for context, Bounce Patrol is original music and nursery rhymes for preschool-aged kids. So it's all about singing and dancing and having a great time.
And bouncing around, just as my kids have done in our living room to your videos. Yep.
Yeah, and the name Bounce Patrol is about getting kids up and bouncing. So when little kids hear a song come on that they really love, even if they're too young to walk, even if they're too young to dance, they will bounce up and down, right? And so that's where the name comes from. It's about getting kids bouncing and excited about our music.
My kids don't walk anywhere. They skip or they run or they hop, but they don't walk. you know, just down the hall to get something. It doesn't really matter what they're doing. It's just like it's some other motion than walking.
Yeah, I love it. The movement of kids is just amazing. So that's what we try and inspire. So all of the songs are really boppy. And it stars 5 of my friends. So at the time I had a bunch of mates who did a lot of the projects, you know, various projects, creative endeavors that I was involved in. And so I called them up and said, hey, the next thing I'm doing is this kids entertainment troupe for YouTube. I want to start a business on YouTube.
Put on a yellow costume and dance and sing?
Exactly. And crazily enough, they all said, yeah, sure. What time? When do we need to be there?
Wow, you get good friends.
Yeah, they're amazing. And I think that translates on screen. I think that's been really helpful over the years. You know, when content creation gets hard, which it does, you have good times and you have bad times, particularly over the course of 10 years now. We've been doing this. It's our 10-year anniversary this year.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And doing it with your friends really helps in those times when it's not so fun, because you can still laugh and have a great time with your mates.
So over the past 10 years of doing this full-time as a creator...
I haven't been full-time for 10 years, but I have been doing it. I started the channel 10 years ago, probably about 5 or 6 years ago.
Okay, yeah. Well, still, like the average lifespan of a creator, from what I understand, is around 5 years. You know, so you're getting up there in terms of internet YouTube years. You know, starting 10 years ago. What are some things that stand out to you that you're like, you know what, I wish I had heard this sooner, or I wish I had understood this sooner, or I wish. What are those things that, like, a creator, after your longevity on YouTube, like, you just like, creators really need to hear this or know this, because I wish I did?
Yeah, I mean, push through the bad times is one of the things that has really helped us. Like, there's always, algorithmically, but also just in terms of what's going on with the industry, things kind of come and go. You know, like, we went through the first apocalypse.
Oh, yeah.
And then we went through copper.
Well, there's a second apocalypse, so there's 2 of them, and then there is Kappa.
Yeah, exactly. I forget how many apocalypses we've had.
They kind of run together because people are like, oh, it's happening again.
Correct. But at the time, it feels like, oh, wow, this is a big deal.
End.
This is the end.
Yeah.
And it's all very dramatic. But, you know, after many years of it, you realize that any one of those things is transitory, and, you know, the industry keeps moving, and, you know, platforms learn to adapt to whatever the new dynamic is. And so you just keep rolling with it. And that's, you know, remembering to stay cool when stuff is not going well.
Yeah. Is it kind of like a stock market type thing where it's like, you know, it's going to be up and down, but overall it goes up? Is that kind of what your take is?
I think that's a great analogy. Exactly. It's exactly like that. Yeah. There's peaks and troughs, but overall
when you're losing
the trend,
thousands in the market, it's still not fun.
Yes.
You know, you're still kind of
exactly.
Especially on something like YouTube, where you're putting your creative heart and soul in this, and on some level, even though we don't like to admit it all the time, it feels personal if the video doesn't do that well.
It does.
Or if I work so hard from this in order to monetize or grow my business or whatever, and then YouTube's taking this thing from me, you know, and and you don't always feel like you have any recourse, you know. It's like YouTube's like, no, in the apocalypse, it's the advertisers, not us, you know, but no, it's kind of YouTube, right?
But the same strategy that you would apply to the stock market, you know, is diversification. So the way to protect yourself from big dips in the stock market is to make sure that you're not heavily invested in one asset class and in one, you know, you're diversifying across stocks, across bonds, across property, and then even within your stocks, you're not just in one industry, that kind of thing. You can apply that same logic to content creation and make sure that you're not all of your eggs in one platform basket. And so you've got diverse revenue streams coming from multiple platforms, so that if there's an adpocalypse on one of them, maybe the traffic is moving towards another one, and that one can kind of help stem that tide.
How do you, because yes, I agree with that. The problem that I run into is that the more revenue streams I add, the more crazy my life gets. Because the more I have to manage, and the more I have to oversee, and now I got to promote more, and it's like, how do you handle that part of things when you're like trying to grow?
One of the ways that I approached that over the years was choosing one platform a year that I was going to be focusing secondary effort on,
Yeah.
giving it a year. And if that didn't turn into a useful secondary revenue source that then would sort of manage itself, I would be willing to say,
Interesting.
okay, I'm not going to work on that anymore. Put that one down, pick up another idea.
That's clearly not working, and I tried. So,
yes.
yeah.
And I gave it a red hot go. And I can't give merch and music distribution and live and whatever. I can't give all of those the attention that they deserve at the same time
Yeah,
to
that's a good
properly
idea.
test whether one of them is going to be effective. So I usually each year pick one at the start of the year that I'm going to say, no, it gets a lot of my attention. And then it either works or it doesn't.
Well, and what you're describing too is the power of focus. You know, it's like you're choosing, like, rather than scattering yourself thin, you're like, no, just this one thing. I'm going to focus on that thing. And you have a date on the calendar. If it's not working by that time, I'm moving on. As opposed to, and does that help you become like less emotionally attached when you know, like, there's a date, and have you been like, you know what, that day's coming up 2 months, there's no way, I'm just gonna stop now?
It's really hard to let it go at the end. Like, so you get to the date and you say, okay, well, you know, if the merch wasn't returning this sort of value by the end of 12 months, we were going to say, okay, then we're going to stop that project.
Yeah.
Well, then what you have to do is say, okay, pull down those products from the store and stop feeding it. And it's really hard at that point because you've put in the effort.
If it's generating some revenue, I had this
Yes.
problem so many times too. So yeah, like with Patreon, for example, it was like a really solid core group of people. Were you part of that?
I was.
Okay,
I was one of your
Yeah, you were one of the
patrons.
patrons. And so, okay, well, I think you already know what happened. But
Yeah.
there's a core group of people who really loved it and who were all about it. And they were showing up to all the Zoom meetings and everything. And but it was like, it was probably about a year. The revenue didn't change.
Mm-hmm.
And as my business kept growing, I was like, I can't keep doing this Patreon thing for the same amount of money. It's taking a lot from me.
Yes.
And there's these other things that I'm doing in my business that generate a lot more, and I felt like serve people better. And I was like, I can't really keep scaling the Patreon the way I had it set up at the time. So I had to make that tough call, and I think I made a lot of people angry and stuff
It's
too,
really
but-
hard, but you got to think about the opportunity cost. So for me, when there's a project that I've been working on that's doing well, but not well enough to make it worthwhile continuing, the opportunity cost is if I spend more time on that, I necessarily can't spend that time on another project that might be doing well. So even if it's making a little bit of revenue, the part that you need to pay attention to is the cost
of your time.
Yeah,
but how
of
do
the
you know
other
if it's
revenue
doing
could be
well
making.
enough?
I mean, that is really dependent on the
Do you
business,
set
I
like
would
a
say.
number at the very beginning of the
Yes.
year? You're like, if it's doing this number, but what if it's like $10 short? You're like, it's like,
If it was $10 short, I would probably keep going with it.
okay, yeah. So it's like, so you set a number, and you're like, by this time it has to reach this objective.
Yep.
And if it's not, then okay, I'm gonna.
Or it might get to the point where I can hand it off to one of my team members. So if it's something
yeah.
that I, as the business owner, the sort of head creator, want to discover, does this work for us? Is this something that makes sense? I'm trying to figure out this new platform or strategy, and then I might work on it for a year, decide, okay, it's worth pursuing, but it's not worth me being the one in charge of it. But now
Yeah.
I've kind of figured out what I want us to do with this. I can then train someone else to continue on with it.
That's a whole nother topic
It is.
of training and hiring and finding the right people and keeping them on board. And I know that's not one of the things you wanted to talk about, but
Well, we can.
okay, yeah, just real quickly, what does that process look like for you? Where you find people, how do you hire them, and then train them and keep them on board?
Yeah. The people who are full-timers in my team now all started casually. So like part-time sort of temp work, that kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
So what I have tended to do when I've been hiring people is take them on for a specific project or a specific task, or to just do something that's a project that's only going to last like 2-3 weeks, something like that. And then at the end of that, if it's worked out really well, then I might say, hey, do you want to come on for another project or come on part-time? And if it hasn't worked out, then I say, thank you very much. That project was terrific. But it's really easy to move on from a relationship that didn't work if everyone understood that it was only going to be temporary or short term to begin with, because then there's no hard feelings. And it's easier to make that decision because you're like, oh, that didn't really work out the way that I wanted to. But then everyone has slowly scaled up. Like some people have not continued, but then other people have scaled up and become part-time. And then after time, they've then moved to full-time.
Yeah. Okay. So one of the biggest reasons why people want to grow their team, and you did mention this a little bit before we started recording this conversation, the team and the revenue and the things is so that they can have some of their life back.
Yes.
But the problem that most people run into, including myself, is that
so much
the
more
more
work.
you actually invest into chasing that thing, the more elusive it becomes, because now you have a team to manage.
Yep.
And then now you have like a bigger opportunities you got to decide, and they take more from you. And so instead of it becoming this life-giving thing, like it becomes a more consuming thing. So one, I guess I'll just leave that open for you. Like what does that look like for you? How do you manage the work, the life? Some people call it balance. I call it priorities. But what does that look like for you as your
One of the things that I've done a
grown?
little bit differently than other businesses, I guess, as I've been growing the business, is not necessarily grow to the largest size possible, but grow to the size where it meets the lifestyle that I would like to lead.
Okay. All right. Preach, go.
So I think, the capitalist notion is that businesses should
Yes.
always continue to grow and be bigger and
If you're not
get
growing,
bigger.
you're dying,
Correct.
right? Yeah, that's the
That's
mantra.
not my philosophy. My
Mine
philosophy
neither.
is grow to the size that fits the life that I and my team want to lead, and then don't grow beyond that point. And so I have said no to a lot of opportunities and projects and things that we could do because they would have meant hiring a lot more people, taking on a lot more risk and bigger projects and doing a lot more work and changing the kind of work that I was doing. So not so much focused on making videos, but focused on, managing the world tour or whatever it happens to be.
Yep.
And choosing not to do that because it's not the business that I want to work in.
I saw a good example of this once with a client we were working with. He has a channel, and he was growing about 2,000 subscribers per day. And he's like, we have a lot more opportunity in this space. And so we started working with him, and he grew to 39,000 subscribers per day, which I don't know what you do, but for him, that was a lot, And he just blew past 1 million subscribers, 2 million subscribers, kept going. And then he's like, Tim, I can't keep this up. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, all this traffic and momentum is crushing my business's resources and our capacity, and like we just can't keep up, and I just want to go back to 2,000 subs a day because that's the lifestyle business that I want. I was making good money there, and after he had like a fire hose of what success looked like and just like that kind of pace, he's like, nope, I want to go back. And I respected that. I was like, most people would be like, how do I keep this going? How do I get 10 million and 20 million?
Absolutely.
I worked with another guy, also same story, well, different story, but it was the opposite, where he's like, all I want is 1 million subscribers. And we're like, okay, so we worked with him, we got to 1 million subscribers, and he was happy and content with that for about 15 minutes. And then he's like, okay, how do we get to 2 million? So then he got to 2 million, and again, he was happy for he did a lot celebratory live stream, and then after that, he's like, okay, 5 million. And I'm like, there's nothing wrong with that, I suppose, but it does seem to lead to this perpetual more. Someone else is outpacing me, and if you're not growing, you're dying. And I don't know if that mantra's true or not, but I feel like if I was to live my life in a way, if it is true, I would die.
Yeah. I feel like that's the creator kind of problem that we all have. Like, we are constantly chasing numbers, and all of the platforms are designed around putting the numbers in our face all the time and give us great analytics so that we can always know in great depth exactly how we're going, and that we need to be shooting for more and more numbers.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I discovered a few years ago...
Says the girl who has 400 million
See, this is
videos
the
where the
thing.
people are listening
I
and be
know.
like, yeah.
I only have 25 million subscribers. subscribers. What am I going to do?
Just stop right now.
But this is the thing. I'm at 25 million and it feels like not enough. Like I'm
really?
aware that the next,
When is enough?
milestone is 50 million, and I'm like, well,
then it's 100.
Then it's 100.
You want that ruby gold
right?
play or that ruby
Everyone
play button.
who is at a subscriber milestone less than me probably thinks, well, when I'm at the numbers that Shannon's at,
that's true.
I'll know that I've made it. I
Yeah.
tell you what, when you get here, you're just looking at the next biggest number.
Ah.
Like at no point does that stop. But so something that I learned a couple of years ago was to stop looking at the numbers.
Oh.
So, I have a rule to try and only look at the analytics once a week and not let myself log in and not put the Creator Studio app on my phone.
Yep.
And because the temptation to look every day and just know where your views are at, ultimately it doesn't really help your creator journey to know exactly how many views you did yesterday.
Yeah, you're kind of wondering like, am I still like on top?
Yeah.
And do people still want me? That's not what we're saying, but
No,
like, is it
yeah.
still like, is
You
what
can get
I'm-
that
what
information
I'm
once a
doing
week.
still valuable? Like those are the types of questions that, if we're gonna be honest, I think actually are the ones coming up inside of us.
Yes.
Or maybe I'm just speaking for myself. I don't know. But
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that social media is designed that way, right? To not trick us, but make us believe that we always need to be chasing those numbers for that validation.
Yeah.
And it can be very freeing if you let yourself not follow that game anymore. And it is very easy for me to say that when I have very large numbers. But a few years ago, I stopped looking at them as regularly, and it really helps to, not feel like you're in that grind quite so much.
Yeah.
I think that helps with sustainable creation. So,
Yep.
You ask me what's it like to be a creator for 10 years. That's one of the things, early on, I looked at the numbers a lot. But, a few years in, 5 or 6, 7 years in, I realized I have to stop looking at that or I won't be able to keep doing this for a decade.
Wow.
If you look at the numbers every day for a decade, you will drive yourself mad.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't look at my metrics that often, but I prefer the creative part of it now, and I have other people on my team who just look at the numbers and tell me what to do, which is nice, because I play into my strength and they play to their strength, so it works out well.
And when I do it with purpose now. So looking at the numbers when you're trying to answer a specific question. So you go into the numbers because you want to say, okay, what are the videos that are doing well and why do I think they're doing well? Because what I'm doing right now is a content brainstorming strategy session for the next month's worth of content.
Okay, yeah.
And so I'm looking at the numbers now with intent.
Yep.
And I'm trying to answer some questions, hypotheticals that I've set up for myself. Then looking at the numbers is helpful and useful, and you can pull out the pieces of information you need. But if you're just looking at them to look at them, it doesn't really help.
What metrics do you look at that you find most helpful in your analytics when you're going in there? We heard here at VidCon, we heard Mr. Beast, he's like, the only one I look at is audience retention. And I'm like, well, I was at a conference earlier this year, and he said the only one was click-through rate and impression. And you're like, okay, I don't know. But which are both important metrics. Which ones do you look at?
Yeah. I mean, it changes. The main things that, just the big stuff, honestly, like which videos are getting the most views, because I do evergreen content, so it's about which ones are driving most traffic to my channel, and then comparing the RPM of different videos, because a video might be ranking like 10th in terms of views, but first or second in terms of how much revenue it's pulling in.
Yeah.
And so, potentially the useful video to make is the one that makes revenue, not the one that gets the most views. They're not always the same thing.
Yeah. Depends on how broad or narrow the audience is and where the traffic's coming from and stuff. Yeah.
And which ones are driving subscribers. And for me, because I make kids content, where the traffic is coming from YouTube main versus YouTube kids.
Oh, okay.
And in general, what's leading to longer sessions.
Yeah.
So
cool. Yeah. If people wanted to go check out your channel and bounce around, where would they go?
It's called Bounce Patrol.
YouTube.com/Bounce Patrol.
Yeah, that's it.
There's a link in the show notes. You guys can go check it out and bounce around. I know we just spent a lot of time talking about how you should not rely on YouTube advertising as your primary source of income. So I want to introduce you for this week's creator tip to a new feature that YouTube is rolling out to more and more creators called channel memberships gifting. Now, you know, on your YouTube channel, you can have like a join button there, which people who join pay a monthly fee. They get access to additional perks and different, rewards and tiers as a result of supporting you and your channel through that paid subscription. And now what they're doing is, if you're doing a live stream, other people can buy that membership and gift it to other people in the live stream. They can buy 5 gifts, 10 gifts, 20 gifts, and all in one single purchase. And then other people who are on the live stream will see that option pop up in the chat saying, hey, so-and-so is gifting a membership. And there's so many gifts available, and people can click. People who are not already members can click and they can claim that gift and have 1 month of access to your channel's perks and memberships for that month. And then, so it's great. It's a cool way for people who are like, hey, I want to pay it forward. I want to help other people experience what I'm experiencing on this channel and just get some credit and some, publicity in your chat while also serving other people. It's an awesome thing. So I'll put a link in the show notes where you can click and go check it out and see how you can enable it just under the monetization tab in your YouTube studio. But more information about how it works and all the details will be down there, so it can help you monetize your audience directly through live streams on YouTube. So I think it's a great thing, and I've seen this at work in other places, on other like apps, for example, that have live chats. A big Clash of Clans gamer, been doing that for a few years, and so sometimes in there, other clan members will buy a certain bag of gems, and everyone in the clan who claims it, or 5 people who claim it, or 10, whoever can get that bag of gems, and it's just like, oh, thank you for supporting the rest of us, right? And it's cool to see that same kind of sentiment here coming to YouTube and to communities in live stream. So again, link to that down below. If you want to talk about any of this stuff, if anything's coming up for you, you got ideas, you want to like discuss this and go back and forth, you want to ask questions, you want to share your thoughts as you've listened to this. I know it's a very one-way medium. So we have the Pod Squad and the after party in Volley. So there's a link in the show notes. Go to videocreators.com/Pod Squad, alternatively. And we'd love to hear your feedback and discuss each of these episodes there with you. The Pod Squad community is growing. It's like 660 something people. I forget exactly, but hundreds of creators in there. I'd love to have you join, and we want to get to know you. First, go to the Introduce Yourself channel in there. Make a quick little video, leave a video message just saying hi and telling us about what you do on YouTube, and then anything you want to ask or talk about regarding growth strategy or anything with this podcast or anything else going on your channel. Let's talk about it there. Okay, so looking forward to meeting you, and we will see you guys again next week for another Video Creators Podcast episode. See you then.